Hey folks, Dave here, and I Like Knives, here to talk to you today a little bit about the SOG Seal XR. This is a new model from SOG, debuted last year in 2019, and I'm liking it a lot. I just want to talk a little bit about it. Now this blade, it's something that SOG's been working on for quite some time. A lot of proprietary stuff going on here. It's got a lot of features. Unfortunately, it does have a couple of bugs, so let's talk about them. Leading off with the good, we are looking at a big old blade of S35VN. It's about 3 3/4 length, 3 3/4 inches length, almost 4 inches on this thing. With a thickness of almost 1/4 of an inch. So this is definitely not a small boy. Clip point, obviously. Nice little swedge there up top. I apologize for the lighting. There you go. Nice little swedge there up top, giving a lot of strength to that tip. This is in no way small. It is coated, obviously, definitely helps with the corrosion resistance. S35VN is not a particularly rusty blade, not like a M4, I apologize. But, that coating will help keep it fresh even longer, even better. The jimped thumb divot up here, jimping is perfectly done up here. They are wide and spaced out, as you can see. Not aggressive, very comfortable getting your thumb in there, very comfortable, as well as a flipper. So that is going to be the primary way to open this knife, is with the flipper tab. One of the other great things, and probably the most fun thing about this knife other than that blade, is the pivot. Now you're not going to be able to see by looking down in there, but this is ball bearings. The reason that I specify you can't tell is because there's a lot of fear around putting ball bearings on a specifically work knife, which, make no mistake, that is this intention, because grime, grit, dirt, etc., mud, dust, whatever can get in there, jam up the balls, and then it doesn't move as well. It is not really a relevant fear in this case because of how well protected those balls are. What it gives is an incredible action, adding to the weight of that blade, as I specified earlier. And this is just so much fun to play with, in large part due to those bearings. Now, the pivot, you can't tell from here, but the pivot, I've taken this apart a multitude of times. I'll explain why later. But that pivot is thick. It is so big. Adding to the overall strength of the knife. That will really be the theme here, is the toughness of the blade. Of course, the size of the blade offers that. Some stuff that we're going to talk about later attributes to that, but one of the smaller details that you don't necessarily see, not done quite this style, is how darn big the pivot is. It's just a really cool smaller detail that it's really cool that got thought out as much. Big pivot. The lock, as I said earlier, will be that XR lock. You can tell that it's not wholly dissimilar from you can see in the light there, from the Benchmade Access lock. And that's because, well, this debuted after the patent expired. So now anybody can use this, they just can't call it the Access lock. That still belongs to Benchmade. So what SOG calls it is the XR lock, and you can see it last year they debuted on this, as well as the Terminus XR. And this year, I actually already have a pre-order for a Trident XR because they're rolling out this hardcore on a lot of their other knives. Flash Aegis, Trident, I'm hoping we'll all get the treatment that those three blades have always deserved in making them a little bit more like this. Now, how that works in function is, well, you just move this little bit, grab these actuators, and the blade comes in. What that's doing is right back there, you can see that little shiny bit right there. That's moving a bar out of the way of the tank. So because of the bearings, it is completely free swinging. Just a very, very cool thing to see. One of the other places that this knife truly does shine is here in the handle, in the grip area. Now I'm going to go ahead and put on my mechanics gloves. I do wear a medium, by the way. And just to show you how purpose-built this thing is as a work knife. Going back to the flipper tab and the lock that we talked about earlier, this is so easy to pull out and actuate. Even when you got stuff on your hands, still very easy. And with these big finger grooves, I know there are a lot of people that prefer a more neutral handle, somewhere that doesn't have that big of finger grooves that lock you in. It still doesn't do that very much. And with as much jimping as is down here, you can see right in there, once you grab a hold of the handle, you don't really have a choice. You're not letting go. It's just not a thing that can happen. But with the rest of the handle, it's textured all around. Obviously textured on both scales. The backspacer, very easy to pull out of your pocket and to grab a hold of. Very, very cool. Down inside of here, you can see those shiny bits right there. We're going to come back to those later. We're going to spend time with those later. But for right now, those represent the full steel liners. Let's see if I can pull out the flashlight. So hopefully you can see down in there. You can see kind of right there. Full steel liners all through this thing. The liners screw directly into the backspacer with two hidden screws right there. So there is no fear of failure on this thing from that perspective, certainly. Going back a little bit further, we come to this very interesting point right here, and what that is a strike plate, a strike point, not a strike plate. Honestly, I would prefer that this was a strike plate. Unfortunately, it is very, very small and rounded, kind of crowned there. So it's not going to be useful very much for hammering, for driving nails, if that's your needs. What this is very useful for, on the work side, some time ago there was some gravel, there was a couple small rocks stuck in the grill of Bobcat, and I pulled this out, I hammered that out. Something like that. Taking down a wooden pallet, I did use this to bang the boards out together to loosen the nails. You're not going to drive nails with this thing, but you can use it as a strike point to move things out of your way. Very useful for that. Now on to one of my least favorite things about SOG as a company, and I do have a lot of their material, so I've got a lot of experience to draw from with this. But they're typically do not do pocket clips in a way that I would consider any measure of halfway decent. This pocket clip is incredible, especially by their standards. And I'm sorry that I have to say it like that, but SOG, I like a lot of the stuff you're doing. I like the stuff you're doing now more than the stuff you've been doing. So as you can see here, that SOG logo, it is not cut out of the blade. It's simply impressed on it. It's embossed on it. It's not cut out. I do greatly appreciate that. Also, with the two screws up here, combining with the backspacer, very easy, especially with gloved hands, to pull this out of your pocket. We'll get back to that a little bit later. And the clip itself is just very well done. Look at how thick that thing is, how much ramp. I can't even barely bend this to make it make a sound. but very thick, a ton of space down in here, a lot of ramp right there. Very, very easy after a little bit of love and care. We'll get to that later. Very easy to get this in and out of your pocket. So I do greatly, greatly appreciate that. Overall, what's really, really cool about this thing is that one of the many things is that it's perfectly ambidextrous as well, just like the Griptilian is, and for the same reasons. I'm going to make a lot of comparisons through this, and one of the reasons is that there's some parts of the design that were taken from that. Now, the clip is reversible on both sides. You can switch it from here to here. The flipper is perfectly ambidextrous. If you have any kind of a left... Yeah, got it. You can do it perfectly with your left hand and actuate the lock. I really don't want this closing on my fingers. There we go. And actuate the lock as well. It's incredible. The lock is... The handle length is just... Sorry, I forgot to mention this earlier, but the handle length is just long enough that, you know, it lets you pack almost a 4-inch blade, but short enough, at least with me, with my medium hands, can still sit the butt of the hammer point in my palm as I pull back on the thumb studs, on the lock studs. And the way that it's done, you only need to grab one. Very, very cool, very, very useful, perfectly ambidextrous. There's a lot of good here. A lot of features. Unfortunately, there's also a handful of bugs, and we need to talk about those. Now, getting to the bugs, because unfortunately this blade does have a couple of weaknesses, and we really do got to talk about them. Leading off here on the back, I mentioned earlier that it does stick so far out of the pocket, it's very easy to pull out of your pants, which is great. Makes it a great work knife. Tactical applications, I'm sure. Unfortunately, it does bring a little bit of weakness for most EDC purposes, because that is just straight up, that is a full inch sticking out of your pocket. From the top of your space, from the top of the pocket space to the tip of the hammer. That's a full inch. That's, I mean, even bad pocket clips, which this isn't a bad pocket clip, but it still sticks up considerably more. Just not a big problem if you're in work pants on the job site. Just important to keep in mind that's a factor. That's a factor. Now, getting to the real problems is the texture. Mentioned a little bit earlier that this is so heavily, and well, bring out my flashlight again. You can see in there all of that dimpling. All of that dimpling and all of that texture. And what you can see right there is where I had to take a piece of sandpaper and grind this way, way down so that the pocket clip stopped shredding and eating my pants. It was completely unusable until I had fixed a couple of things. And unfortunately, that's one of the things I had to fix. You'll see here that on this Delica, you see that little spot right there. That little spot is what goes under the pocket clip. That way, it doesn't eat the pocket. With this, you're going to have to do that yourself. Now, this is an FRN. It is an FRN material handle. Make sure that you're wearing something over your mouth, over your nose, over your face when working with this. But it's an easy material to work with, so there's no problem just taking some moderate sandpaper and grinding that down. Just keep that in mind. What is a little bit more difficult, and I actually had to go out and get a Dremel to deal with, is this space right here. You can see all of those black spaces. This part's supposed to be black. What the silver is where I ground it down, where I had to grind this down because it was eating my finger. You'll notice the back of the flipper as well. That texture was so dang aggressive that I could barely use it. It was eating my calluses. So I had to take a Dremel and grind this down to where there's still some texture. You can still feel the bumps. It still grabs your finger, and you saw me working with the glove earlier. Still flips just perfect. Flips even better. That texture was just completely unnecessary, is what that was. And putting the texture back here where your finger collides with it. So where is it? Right there. Where your finger comes in, there you go. That's right in the middle of the texture path, right in the middle of the jimping. All of these other things I've got some complaints about. That is a design flaw. That is bad. That's broken. SOG don't do that. Nobody do that. Why would anyone do that? Hey, ZT, why do you do that? I hate it. It's stupid. You shouldn't do it and should be ashamed of it. You should be ashamed of yourself, SOG. I'm sorry. I'm not. You should. But I got a Dremel now and I'm fine. Very useful for other things. Everyone should have a cheap Dremel. It's great. The last thing, not the last thing, I apologize, but right here you can see a lot of that silvery bit as well, showing the metal underneath the coating from where I tried to fix the ow. Dude, ow, gosh. Can you see how much that hurt my thumb? I can't, ow. Can't do it. Gotta stop trying. The detent is, I think it's a detent issue, is so incredibly strong with this thing that hole is just dead to me. Like, that hole is completely purposeless. This is a flipper open knife, also because of the XR lock, you can open it like that if you want. But that hole is completely unusable. I can't imagine. I was watching the Blade HQ videos at SHOT Show when this thing was first announced, and Mr. Salesman guy pulls his out of his pocket and goes, can't do it. Gonna stop trying. Ow, that hurts, man. But pulls it out of his pocket and a reverse grip throws it open. And it's one of the coolest things. Like, that moment is what made me want this knife so bad. And I can't do it. I don't know if it's possible. It's not on this one. Just keep that in mind. This is a flipper knife. Again, not an issue at all. Not for me anyway. None of these are major issues because, the pocket clip rides high. It's a work knife. I'm wearing gloves. I'm wearing cargo pants covered in dirt while I'm pulling this out. Nobody cares. The extreme texture on the handle, it's FRN. Go get some sandpaper. The extreme texture back here, that it sucks. So you got to get something a little bit heavier duty than sandpaper to take care of that, but it is a workable material. I don't know if any of these count against the warranty. If it does, that really sucks, and SOG should fix that. I don't know if it does, though. Last thing on the bugs, and again, this isn't really a huge bug, but the fact of the matter is this thing is just darn heavy. You can, come back, backlight, there we go. You can see that this thing is 2.27 ounces. So it is more than half a pound, basically 8.3 ounces. It's heavy. You know that this thing is in your pocket. It rides incredibly, weirdly well for the size in your pocket, but you still know it's there. Comparing it against some other, kind of classic work knives, we got the Spyderco Shaman here. You're looking at 5.3. You got the Cold Steel Recon 1. What are you looking at? 5.4? Actually didn't expect that to be heavier. What do we got? Contigo? Just for the heck of it. What are we doing? 5.7? The only thing that's going to come close from the knives that I have on hand, actually this might, Gerber 06, you're looking at 7.1. Does the ZT Emerson come ever close? No, it doesn't. 6.4. This is far and away the heaviest thing that I have in my collection. And I love it. The size, the weight, it's perfect. It's a work knife for me. I work in the kind of conditions that eat through a steel. Not in hard use, like edge use kind of thing, but very, very highly corrosive. I took this thing to work with me once, and over the course of a day, just me opening fertilizer bags, over the course of a day, I saw rust spots pop up on this. It was incredible. It's the fastest thing I've ever seen. So with that said, I can't take a satin knife to work with me, not in good conscience. I love this. This is perfect. If you are looking for a hard use kind of thing, this will do it for you. If you're looking for a one-handed, if you're looking for something that has got a couple extra purposes, the pivot's so strong on this that obviously don't pry with your knives, but the pivot's so strong on this that, like I said, knocking out those wooden pallets, I've had to use this as a pry bar, not scraping up on concrete or anything, but a little light prying, it's tough enough to do it. And I've obviously taken it apart and disassembled and reassembled it several times, but it's centered. There's no blade play. The tip is hidden. The tang is hidden. It's a great knife. This is not going to replace your this isn't going to replace your Delica or something like that. If you're in more of an office setting, your CRKT CEO, better example. This fills a different purpose. If you're looking for a dedicated EDC knife, you're probably looking a little bit lighter weight. You're probably looking a little bit smaller size. You're probably looking, a couple of things. This isn't that. What this is heavy duty work knife. It places toughness at a premium, and at $160, $170, it does make you pay for that. It is something at least me when I bought it, that I had to reach for in order to buy it, in order to afford it after staring at pictures of it for 6 months. And it's worked great for me. This this is a knife that gets my stamp of approval. It's a great knife. I hope that y'all have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.